Now that we've covered the outside of the car, let's hop in and take a look. You'll notice that the screens power on as soon as you open the door. I'd like to go over the steering wheel controls and instrument panel with you. On the left side, it mostly covers media, so we can skip forward and back between tracks with the top and bottom button. We can go up and down with volume using the scroll wheel, and we can also click on the scroll wheel to pause or mute a certain audio track. We can also click and hold on this scroll wheel to choose what we want to see on the left side of the instrument panel. We can scroll down and see energy, see the energy usage we've had over the last 30 miles. We can also see trip information and navigation if we had a route. If we had a route, it would automatically populate this left side, but you can always come back to one of these previous ones. To start the car, all you need to do is press the brake pedal. It already knows I'm here because there's a sensor in the seat. So I press the brake, it flips over the center screen, gives me some lights on top for warning lights, and then shows me my speed on the left side, again in the middle with that large 0, shows how much range I have available, and on the right side we see how much energy we've consumed, instantaneously. So right now it's an orange line right around 0. As we accelerate, that orange line builds up and shows how much you're consuming. When you regenerate, when you lift off of the accelerator pedal, the car will slow down and will start recharging the battery, and this shows you a green line of how much is going back into that battery. You can also see what gear you're in on the bottom. So it's in park right now, but reverse or neutral would show there. The reverse neutral selector is right here, so I can press down for drive, I can press R for reverse, and just a little half click in between gives us neutral. Pressing on the end gives us park, and if I need an emergency brake while driving for whatever reason, you can just press and hold and that'll actuate the emergency brakes. On the right side, we have voice control with the top button. So I can press and hold on this and tell the car to navigate to a location. I can also ask it to play a certain track. So if I wanted to do that, I would press and hold, wait till it says recording, and then say something that it would do. So, play Rolling Stones. Let go of the button, and then it'll search for what I'd like to do. It now brought up Rolling Stones here. I can press on that on the touchscreen, and the car will automatically start playing Rolling Stones. I can see that on the right side using the same control here where I hold down the scroll wheel, and now I can choose between these different choices. So, media, and now I see that the car is playing Rolling Stones. Very cool. We can also use the bottom button to choose the menu here. We can customize or we can choose the phone menu. So if I click on the scroll wheel on customize, I now have a choice of what I'd like to do with this scroll wheel. It's currently set to all, and that allows us to cycle through all of the different choices here. Climate temperature, fan speed, display brightness, sunroof, media source. I can also initiate a phone call directly by choosing phone, and then I can choose my recent calls or contacts. So I can scroll through all of my recent calls, I can go back by pressing the menu button again, choosing contacts, and then I can scroll through my entire directory in alphabetical order. Now that we've covered the steering wheel controls and instrument panel, let's move on to the touchscreen. You'll notice that the touchscreen is separated into 4 distinct areas. There's a bar across the top that's always stationary. And to start with, there's a status bar at the very, very top here. You have the temperature, you have a shortcut to the charging menu, home link, driver controls, a shortcut to what version you're looking at, the Bluetooth menu, the car's 3G signal, time, and whether the passenger airbag is on or off. Let's go through those one by one. Let's take a look at the charging menu. The charging menu shows you how many miles are available on the car, gives you a visual representation of that, allows you to choose between standard and max range mode. Standard mode is 85% of the battery's charge. This is good for day-to-day life. It's great for long-term battery life to stay away from the extreme levels of the battery. But if you're going to take a long trip the next day, it's a good idea to charge into max range mode. Max range mode charges the car to 100%. That fills it all the way. It's a little bit bad for the long-term life, but it gives you the full range of the car. And it'll stay in that mode for about 3 days unless you set it back, and it'll occasionally remind you to switch back to standard. Switching back to standard takes you back to 85% again on your next charge. The charge current is really only to override the charging current downward. The car automatically knows what to charge at, depending on what it's plugged into. The mobile connector, for instance, those adapters I showed you earlier, they'll actually automatically lower the current based on what type of plug they're plugged into. But if you need to lower it for whatever reason, you can just tap this downward a little bit and that'll lower it. You can also open the charge port directly from here with just a quick tap. Cars equipped with the tech package have HomeLink available. You can create a new HomeLink just by adding in a name, press Create HomeLink, and then the car will walk you through the instructions to set that up. You'll need your garage door opener and maybe a ladder to get to the button on your garage door opener to program it. You can also set a driver profile from here. Press Driver Profile Settings, add a name, Create Profile, and it'll actually create that for you and allow you to adjust your seating position and then save when it's done. Within the profile, you can see what's saved by pressing right here, and that'll show you that it's more than just seat controls. It saves your lights and lock settings, your map, your units and format, climate control, a number of different things, so the car remembers how you like it. By pressing the Tesla T here, you can see what version software you're on, see the release notes for that latest software, the VIN number for the car, and what model you have. Next up is Bluetooth. By pressing on the Bluetooth symbol here, we can search for a phone. Grab your phone and make sure it's set to discoverable. Then press Start Search. It'll find your phone. Press on that. It'll add the device by sending a code across, and you can accept that on the phone itself. This should take just a moment. Press Pair on your phone. You'll see Media and then Phone is brought up. You can jump directly to either media or phone, but note that your phone contacts will take a little while to load, especially if you have a lot of them on the phone. We'll skip over that for now and jump into that in the phone settings later. This bar on the bottom is also stationary. There's a shortcut to the control menu and some heating and ventilation controls we'll cover later. Let's take a look at this menu here. You'll see there are a lot of different things we can control in the car directly from the touchscreen. Let's jump right in and take a look at the sunroof. We can open it by pressing on this bar here, so if I want to vent it, I can do that. I can drag it down to open it a certain amount. And I can also control it just by dragging the image here. That's all there is to it. Okay, let's have a look at the driving tab. In this, you can choose the height for the suspension. Although it's automatic for normal use, it'll lower itself at highway speed if you have the air suspension option. But you can then choose a high or very high setting, for instance, over a steep driveway. The jack button just disables it so that if you're changing a tire, it's not going to automatically try and level itself. The steering mode changes the effort of the steering. So what that'll do is the Sport will give you a stiffer, tighter steering, a little more feedback, whereas the Comfort lightens it and makes it a little bit easier to drive in the city. Traction control allows you to turn off the traction control for the rear wheels. The stability control will stay on, but it allows you to have a little bit of fun with the car. Of course, that's going to use up some of your tires, so we recommend you keep that on. Regenerative braking allows you to lower the amount of force you get when you lift off of the accelerator pedal. Driving in standard is great, it's much more efficient, and it mimics more what you would feel in a manual transmission car when you let go of the accelerator pedal. For someone who's used to an automatic, maybe the low setting is better for them, but you should note that it's a little bit less efficient. You'll get less energy back when you slow down by letting off the accelerator pedal. You also have a choice of whether you want what we call creep on or off. That also mimics an automatic transmission. When it's on and you release the brake pedal, the car will crawl forward or backwards depending on which gear you're in. Next up, we'll jump into the Trips tab. You can see how much energy you've used since your last charge and the distance that you've traveled and what the average energy per mile has been. You also have two different trip meters that you can set independent of that, an A and a B trip, much like you would have in a normal car, except these also save your energy usage, the total energy and the average energy per mile. Let's jump into the displays now. With the displays, you can choose the brightness for either day or night mode by sliding the scale up or down. You can also choose day or night mode independently or leave it to an automatic setting so that the sensors in the car will turn it to day or night mode depending on how bright it is outside. Next we have e-brake and power off. Here you can control your parking brake independently, and this button also turns red and turns into an emergency brake while you're driving. But remember that the button on the gear selector for park is also your emergency brake if you just press and hold. You can also use this to turn off the parking brake to leave the car free rolling at, say, a car wash or somewhere else where you may want the car to be free rolling. To do that, press the blue button here while your foot's on the brake pedal. That will disable the parking brake, and then you can power off the car by pressing this button here. Then when you get out, it won't automatically put the car into park. The car will give you a quick warning, and then you can power off. In order to turn the car back on, all you need to do is hop in, press on the brake, or touch on the touchscreen, and then you can press here to actuate the parking brake. On the bottom, we have access to open the front or rear trunks, lock or unlock the doors, and open the charge port. On the right side, we have dome light settings. We can turn the ambient lights on or off, turn the daytime running lights on or off, the fog lights if you have those, and then you also have headlight settings, which you can just leave to auto. Remember that you always have the hazard lights on this button right here, and one of the cool things is you can actually see a representation of the lights that are on this screen directly. Next, let's have a look at the settings tab. Under this, we can take a look at our media player accounts. We can also look at our maps and navigation, magnification, as opposed to zoom, which is a little different, and also set the home page for our web browser. We also have access to our driver profiles, which we discussed earlier in the status bar. And we also have access to units and format. You can set distance to miles or kilometers, your time to 12 or 24 hours, temperature, Fahrenheit and Celsius, charging units to show distance or energy while you're driving the car, and also your range display, whether you want rated, which is the EPA rating, or ideal, which is closer to a 55-mile-an-hour cruise. Next, we have vehicle controls. You can adjust whether you'd like the doors to lock when you drive away, the child protection lock for the rear doors. You can also set, with the tech package, walk-away door locking, whether you'd like the door handles to auto-present. You can also turn mirror auto-tilt on or off while reversing, turn the alarm on or off. You can choose whether you'd like the headlights to stay on for 2 minutes after exit, and you can also turn on range mode, which lowers the output of the air conditioning and heater, and will turn on seat heaters first while warming the cabin to save energy. You can also turn on access to the mobile application from here. And finally, we have HomeLink. This is a shortcut to the menu we saw earlier, allowing you to set up a garage or gate opener. Also on the bottom here, you have controls for the seat heater and heating and ventilation controls. The seat heater starts off nice and warm, and you can step it down from here. You can also choose temperature by pressing up and down on these, and if you like, you can sync it with the passenger side or choose separately. You also have the front defroster, the rear defroster, an on or off button to turn everything on or off, and you can even customize right here. Open this up, you can choose the fan speed independently, you can choose the direction, whether you want to recirculate, or turn the AC on or off. There's also a redundant volume control for the passenger in the bottom right corner. Let's take a look at the applications. You can see that we have media and navigation highlighted here. The media is on top and navigation is on the bottom. If you want to open something on the top, all you need to do is tap on it. So we can tap on energy, it'll open right up top. And if we want to open media on the bottom, what we can do is we can press and hold, and you'll see you have an option for 2 different screens. We can open that on the bottom there. You can also switch in between them by pressing this arrow, and we'll swap between the 2. If you'd like, certain applications such as navigation and web will go full screen just by pressing on the button in the bottom left corner. It's all very fast and allows you to switch between the 2. Let's go over each in detail, starting with media. You can see that we're playing Slacker Radio right now, which we selected earlier. You see the album art cover, which is pulled up automatically, information about the song, and normal buttons for play, skip to the next song, and if we weren't streaming radio, we'd also be able to go back if we were, for instance, playing off the USB drive. You can also say that you like a song by pressing the plus button here, and you can say you don't like one by pressing the international stop sign there. You can also favorite it internally, so you can say, I like this song, and it'll stay in your favorites up top. We can also browse amongst other Slacker sources by searching directly through voice control or typing in an artist or song. You can see recently searched, and then you can browse through news, custom station, top stations, lots of different options in here. By scrolling backwards, we can go to our other internet radio source, TuneIn Radio. TuneIn allows you to bring in radio stations from all over the world. Let's take a look at the normal radio options as well. You have a choice between FM, AM, or XM radio if you have a subscription. By pressing on FM, you get a more traditional tuner setup. You can slide in between stations and choose one specifically, You can search through just by clicking on here, backwards and forwards. And you can save a favorite just by pressing and holding on any one of these. Once it pulses, it saves that station. You can choose HD on or off depending on how the signal is in your area, and that may give you some more options down here for further HD channels at each frequency. You can also jump directly to AM, and with XM, you can find the radio station code so that you can set up your own XM radio station. Let's press Browse and take a look at some of our other options. We can jump directly to My Music and Devices and select a phone paired over Bluetooth where we can play music directly. And we can also go back and plug in a USB drive. That will then pop up here. I can press on it, sort by songs, genre, artist, albums, or by folder. And then I can play something directly here. Under Favorites, we have all of our favorite radio stations, in addition to favorite tune-in stations, Slacker stations. A variety of different things can be sent to favorites, and you can have them all in one collection here. You can also see your recently played. We can see what we played today, yesterday, and even 2 weeks back. It goes quite a ways back, so if you're wondering what you listened to a week ago, it's right here. We can also jump directly to favorites and recents through these two buttons up top. You can also jump directly to your equalizer settings by pressing this button and fine-tune your settings directly. You can turn Dolby Surround on or off depending on the audio source, and you can also jump directly to fade and balance, where you can concentrate the music right on the driver, and it has a smart center for 0. In addition to jumping between audio sources directly on the steering wheel controls, you can also jump between them by pressing this button here, jump directly to FM, AM, XM, TuneIn, Slacker, or whatever devices you have paired. Next up, let's take a look at the navigation. I'll switch into the top pane again, and then in this bottom left corner, I can go full screen. The maps look great in full screen, and you have a couple of different choices. You can pinch to zoom, you can pull in to zoom in on something, to get a closer view, you can switch to satellite, and you can also turn traffic on or off, whether you like seeing traffic on the roads or not. You can also zoom in and out using these buttons. You can have the car follow you on navigation by keeping this little blue target highlighted. With navigation, you can type in an address directly here, or if you have connectivity, you can just type in, say, a business, and it'll navigate you directly to the closest ones. We can also do that through voice controls. You can also see your history by pressing here, see all the recent places that you've been to, and you can also choose your recent searches. So if you're 200 miles down the road and you need a cup of coffee, all you need to do is do the recent search and it'll find one nearest you. If we choose one of these, it'll do a search for anything nearby. We want to choose one of our Tesla Motors stores. We can click on that. There's an option to navigate or call the store directly from here. If we press navigate, you then get the choice of your next turns, volume, and you can cancel. You also see how much time it'll take you, how many miles, and the approximate time it will arrive. You can also jump directly to your final location by pressing the flag. Now let's take a look at the energy application. We'll cancel out of this, take this one out of full screen, and jump into energy on top just by tapping on it. This new energy application is great. It shows you your watt hours per mile over the course of the last 30, 15, or 5 miles, building different graphs of each level of data. You can also see your instantaneous range or your average range over that period. Lots and lots of information to tell you exactly how far you can go and how your driving has affected your actual range. Next up is the web browser. Web browser allows you to type a URL into the top or do a Google search directly in there as long as you have the connectivity package. You can go full screen, which is great. You can read a website while you're waiting to pick somebody up. You can also save favorites by pressing Heart Plus here, and you can jump directly to your favorites by pressing the heart. You can also jump to the backup camera at any time. It of course comes on automatically when you put the car into reverse. You can jump directly to your phone application from here. You can see your recent calls, you can see your contacts and scroll through those alphabetically, and you have a dialer in case you want to enter a number in directly. Of course, this is also available through the steering wheel.